The Associated Country Women of the World is an organization based in London, England. That's where the first International Conference of Rural Women was held back in April of 1929. The AWWA is the largest organization of rural women in the world. Sorry, the ACWW is the largest organization of rural women in the world with 9 million members. The president of the Canadian chapter lives right here in Quebec in the Eastern Townships. Sheila Needham is a resident of South Bolton. She's been a member of the organization for 42 years, and she was recently voted to lead the national chapter. And joining us this morning from her home in South Bolton is Sheila Needham. Good morning.
Good morning, Susan. How are you?
I'm well, and you?
Very well, thank you.
42 years is a long time to belong to any organization.
That's right.
How did you come to be a member?
That's a short time for some people.
You've got people who've been around longer than that.
Oh, yes. I mean, they've been members for 70 years or more, yes. Once you've joined the Women's Institute, it seems like it's a lifelong adventure.
Yes, and I was thinking about the Women's Institute when I was reading a little bit about the organization. How did you come to be a member?
Oh, well, my mother-in-law dragged me to a meeting. When you're young, married with kids, you're not really set up to go to meetings, but I was welcomed wholeheartedly with the kids, and I just sat and watched, and after a while you go to a few more meetings and you start to participate, and that's how it started. And I can remember I went up through the ranks. I became publicity chair for the county, and I had to give my first report. And oh my goodness, my voice trembled, my hands were shaking, but the women there, they didn't mind. They knew it was my first time, and that's how accepted you are. They want you to learn and progress and develop your talents that you have, I guess, and they're just so very accepting in the Women's Institutes.
Tell me about the organization, the ACWW. What exactly are the objectives of the organization?
Well, it's a long list of objectives, actually. And when you first go to a Women's Institute meetings, you don't hear about all the aims and objectives of ACWW. What you do mostly is collect pennies for friendship, and that's all you know about the organization. And it's only when you start going further to meetings or maybe attend a world conference, you start to learn the worldwide range of aims and objectives they have, such as can I read it to you?
Sure, of course.
Not too long. It says the members of ACWW who live in rural and urban areas, representatives of many races, nationalities, and creeds, believe that peace and progress can best be advanced by friendship and understanding through communication and working together to improve the quality of life for all people through the relief of poverty, the relief of sickness, and the protection and preservation of health, and the advancement of education. And I just thought that summed it up very well. It's part of our Constitution, and it's what we're constantly working towards.
And working towards on a very local level in one way through the Women's Institutes.
Yes.
But also working on a global scale as well. There's actually connections between the organization and the UN, if I understand correctly.
Yes, that's right. There are 9 different areas of the world. They're separated into areas, and the U.S. and Canada are the only 2 areas that are countries in themselves. The other areas are made up, such as Europe includes England and Wales and Ireland and Scotland and all of the Europe area, the Nordic countries, and then there's East Asia. There's parts of Africa. There's the north part of Africa and the southern Africa and the middle part. So there, and then the South Pacific area with Australia and the islands there, and New Zealand. So it's quite wide ranging, and
if I asked you what the bond was,
different needs and concerns.
That's the thing. There, you're talking about rural women or country women in all of those areas of the world. Is there a bond that sort of you think of when you think of what brings those women together?
Well, I guess it would be the need that they have, and they know to contact the women who belong to ACWW, and they will be helped, sponsored, or loaned money, or whatever it is they need. The members of the ACWW sort of take on an obligation to help these women.
What kind of projects are we talking about?
Well, I can only really speak for Canada, and right now we take on projects, but they're in India, and there's 2 projects that the Canadian members have agreed to support, and one of them is dealing with fish processing and helping the women there start a business so that they can process fish. They buy the fresh fish, but they found out that, fresh fish only lasts so long, and during the time when fresh fish isn't available, they needed to learn how to process it so they could sell it and make their money year-round. And the other project is on the same vein, learning how to make pickles and candles and things that will garner income for these women in the communities to help them. Sometimes just takes a small amount of money to be able to send your child, to send your child for education or health matters.
I can't help but reflect on all of the talk of late internationally about women's health initiatives and how so much of the focus internationally is on the importance of women in a society and keeping them healthy and therefore keeping children healthy and also empowering them. It's all sounds like it's part of what you've been doing for a long time.
Yes, for a long time, since 1929. Yeah, and we have our connection with the UN, and started out with UNESCO and FAO and the World Health Organization. We've been a part with consultative status, a part of the UN for many years. And on our international board, we have a United Nations committee, and they represent us there and at the UN meetings. And we also have other representatives in other parts of the world, like in Geneva and that attend meetings for us and bring forward our concerns to the UN and vice versa.
How does working with an organization like this, and as you say, moving up through the ranks from that first Tremblay speech
Yes.
to president of the Canadian chapter, how has it changed you?
Well, I don't tremble quite so much. And you sort of accept the fact that you will be speaking to large groups of people. And over the years, I've done that through the Federated Women's Institutes and now with the ACWW.
Has it helped you to kind of realize that you have gifts that maybe you wouldn't have known about otherwise?
Oh, I think so, because, this is not something that I never thought that I could help plan conferences or speak to large groups of people and show PowerPoints and stuff like that. It's not something I even imagined when I was a young woman starting a women's institute.
Has it changed your vision of the world?
Oh, yes, it has certainly done that, enlarged my vision of the world. It's a shame some people hardly ever leave the home, let alone their home province, but it's wonderful to come back home. There's nowhere else I'd rather live, but it's wonderful to see the rest of the world and to get an eye on what's going on around the world and maybe how we can help other people in the world.
Feel like you can make a difference no matter where you are in the world. Is there a specific project that stands out for you, Sheila, over the many years you've been contributing?
Over the many years, I think I mentioned there was a project that, this is when I was on the board of the Federated Women's Institutes of Canada, but it was a national project that we took on the idea of making squares for Zambia, and that's what the project was called, Squares for Zambia. And we crocheted and knitted thousands, if not millions, of squares, and they were collected and sent over to the women there to make their own blankets. We found that was a better process to box up the squares. I think there was 2 sizes, like a 4x4 and a 6x6, and we sent the wool, and we found that passed through their government inspections when they arrived in their country, and then that went on to the local village where the women made them into squares or whatever size they needed and used them. So
that is a great symbol for the kind of work you do.
It was, and it involved the members in a touchy-feely kind of way, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and,
tactile.
Rather than just... now, we don't do that quite so much. I think, too, it's more accepted that you send money because the women in the communities now in these rural areas in the third world countries, they know what they need and what they want, and a lot of it just takes money to start up their businesses and to help them garner income. But the members here in Canada really did like that, making the squares. It felt like they were really doing something.
Absolutely.
But they do the same thing now in different ways. They hold different fundraising things, and they might make stuff just the same and sell it, and the funds go for these projects.
Well, congratulations on all the work you do and continue to do and have done with the association and with the local institutes. And thank you for telling us more about it.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.
Sheila Needham's the Canadian president for the Associated Country Women of the World. We reached her in South Bolton. If you'd like to learn more about the organization, the website is acww.org.uk.